Hey guys, HardlyBriefDan here with episode 43 of our Unity Make an RPG series. Sorry for the delay in videos. As mentioned several times on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, I got extremely busy with work and needed to take some time to get caught up there. But luckily now I can come back and make some videos, so here we are. Last time we left off, just to update everyone, I am in Unity 4.6. But we're not going to be using any of the Unity 4.6 features just yet. I kind of want to take a vote. So if you could please comment, write me a message, or something on Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook. Just let me know what you think about using 4.6 for our RPG series. So kind of moving it over. We're not going to have to change much really at all. Well, I guess we'll change. Eventually, we'll have to change our character creation system, but that can all stay the same with the on GUI stuff, but with the actual GUI pixel value placement that we did with those features. But I would like to use Unity 4.6 for our kind of moving forward. I think there's a lot better features in it. So let me know what you guys think. If there's overwhelming no's and saying, hey, no, stick with 4.5. Then we might stick with we'll probably stick with 4.5. But if some people express an interest and I think that it might be better for where we're headed, then we'll definitely switch to 4.6 permanently. But I am in the same project. It's just open in 4.6 beta. I'll put a download link below the video for 4.6 beta. If you want to download it, you're more than welcome to. But we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and recap where we left off last time, and then we'll jump in and start doing some code for this video. So last time, we've kind of been we've been working on our turn-based combat system, and we're trying to add a few different things to kind of keep it moving along, but keep it so that it's, I want to say full, but basically we needed to display certain things. We display our character and player health. We needed to add abilities, which we've done. There's a few things that we needed to add just to actually have a complete battle system, which we've done for the most part, and so we're going to kind of continue on from there. Have our battle state machine, which is our turn-based combat state machine here, which is basically where everything takes place, right? So we start our battle, we prepare the battle, and then we have either player choice or enemy choice. Enemy choices, this is where our AI falls into play. We'll say coded AI goes here. Then we have our calculator damage, and then we do a status effects check. So basically this is it. And I don't know how a professional turn-based system works, but I would assume it works kind of something like this. I'm sure it's more complex, but it still states of player and enemy doing certain things at certain times. So the general idea is there, and that's what we're going off of. So we have this awesome state machine, and we started adding to it. We've been really working on our prepare battle script here, which is battle state start script, and we have this function that's public and it returns nothing, called prepare battle, right? And it creates a brand new enemy for us, which this is not like a super complex way of creating an enemy, don't get me wrong, it's very simple, but we have this enemy here that we can access later on, the other with stats and stuff. Now we also choose to we figure out who goes first, and this is based on luck. So if our new enemy's luck is greater than or less than our luck, then it will determine whether or not we go first or the player goes first. You remember we left this blank, this if our luck is equal to enemy luck, for you to determine whether or not you wanted to use a different state, maybe do another roll check on something else. And then we left off really working on our player vitals. Right, we came up with the stat calculation script, which I'll go ahead and open that up if I can find it. Let's see. Stat calculations in the folder. So we started working on the stat calculation script, which it's very, very simple. Our stat calculations are extremely basic, based on percentages and levels. It's nothing. We're not doing any crazy algorithms here. So that's simple, and we're using those, and we've imported that, or we're using that script here in a new instance of it here. And then the last thing we started doing was our player health and energy, and saving it, or placing it in our game information player health and player energy script. which is here, and this is just a script full of public static variables that we can access. So there's a couple of things that I would like to add in this script, and then we're going to kind of work with this script in our GUI. And we're going to be using the old 4.5 GUI for this video. If I see some feedback in time, we'll switch over and change up to the Unity 4.6 beta GUI, which I believe is a lot better. So you guys decide on that, and I'm sure you'll let me know. So anyways, what we've done is we've added more variables here, but depending on what we need to look at and access. And there's several things that we need to access. One of those is moves. There's a few ways you can handle what I'm going to call, let's say, ability. We could call it like an ability inventory, if you will, and that could be done a few ways. You can literally have public variables. I'm going to zoom in for you guys. It's a little much. You could have public static variables. So like this, we're going to do public static. Instead of type int, it would be a type base ability. Right, so the base ability, let's open up that script. We can go ahead and review it. Be good for me. Let's see, base ability here, and I'll go ahead and open up one of the moves. So we have this base ability script here, this class that we created that has ability name, description, ID, power, and cost. Okay, cost is a energy cost, not value currency cost, or it could be if you want. You know, it's up to you. But that's the idea for this ability cost here. So what we could do is actually create a few slots, quote-unquote slots, that are where we place our abilities, right? So if we let's say we limited our player to, say, have 5 ability slots when they enter combat, we could force them to choose out of an inventory of abilities, or, you know, learned abilities, and let them pick and choose. And so there's a couple ways you can handle that. There's 2 different inventories. And this is just to show you guys one of the abilities we made. You could do this by database, much like the item database script we had, the XML database there, or you can go ahead and create a script for each move, or class, excuse me. I believe you could actually put these all in one giant, actually, never mind. Scratch what I just said. But basically, this is a script, very tiny script that has our /ability. I know someone had asked me if you could do that with items. You can do this with items. You can do this with anything, or you can create a database. It's up to you how you want to organize it. Since we haven't created a ton of moves, I didn't want to create another database. The coding is very, very similar to the item database. So, anyways, we have this here. We have our base ability, and going back to kind of figuring out how we're going to handle this. I think for now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and create 2 public static variables, since we only have 2 abilities, and I'm going to actually just assign them, like straight up. Our game information, our player, quote unquote, has these 2 abilities no matter what. Okay, but what you can do is like make a list of abilities. Let's say you have 100 ability, or you have. Let's say you have a spell book, okay? So you have a spell book, and you have every few levels you learn a new ability. This spell book would basically consist of a list, a type list. Remember, we've used those before, which is in the I think systems.collections.generic. Let me actually do that real quick. I think it's like, go and copy this using statement up here. I think it's .generic. And then basically what you could do is say a public static. Maybe I'll just do that and just to show you guys, be a list. Yeah, and the list will be of type base ability, and this will allow us to actually expand. This is what we'll do. I'm going to go ahead and erase this public static statement down here that I started, and we're just going to go ahead and add this up here. So we have a public static list base ability, and this is, we're going to call this player's abilities. Okay, and then that should be okay. We're gonna go ahead and set that equal. No, that's fine. Okay, so this list here, basically, we'll probably have to add a function to that. Okay, so this list will function. If you want to do this way, we're gonna do both. Sorry for the confusion. But basically, this is a way to store several abilities. Basically, unlimited amount of abilities. You can add them, you can remove them, at certain points. You can use this list to display rows of buttons more easily. You can run for loops through this list to find moves. It's pretty cool. The list works really well. The other thing you can use is a dictionary, which will allow you to organize it a little bit better. So it's up to you. We've used a dictionary. Remember, we used dictionary in the item database. But I would stick with the list or dictionary. But for testing purposes, since we only have 2 abilities, I'm going to use 2 public static variables like I was going to initially do. These are going to be public static, and they're going to be type base ability. And we're going to say move 1, player move 1, and then we're going to go ahead public static base ability player, and then we're going to say move 2. And I'm going to actually set these equal to a new instance of our base. I guess it's called sword slash, right? And then the other one was, I think, auto attack, so new auto attack. Is that what it was? It was called attack ability. Right, okay. So we're going to set it equal to a new attack ability, instance of the new attack ability. So what I'm doing here is I'm manually setting, I'm saying, hey, this base ability, these 2 base abilities that are separate, player move 1 and 2, are these abilities. And what you could do is based on classes, let's say we do this. Okay, say you want to do this, you want to assign the first starting moves. You can actually go into our character creation, which is, let's see, create new character. We can do that. I'm going to go ahead and open up our classes. So let's say we have our warrior. Since we can actually, we're going to have to open up our base class, which is base character. Okay. So what you could do, let's say you don't, if you're moving ahead of me and you're trying to add abilities to the entire game, let's say, and you want certain abilities to start with your class, right? So let's say if you, if you're in a warrior, each class starts out with 2 different abilities, and you want to assign your abilities for that for each class. Using our create new character, you can do it in here, where we kind of store new player info. You can go ahead and say, well, each player is going to start out with these two moves, or using the information from our class selection, right? This GUI layout toggle. Let's say you did that. Using that, you could pick and choose which. You could say, you can have if statements. This is not the pretty way to do it, but you could say if the chosen class is mage class, then they get these 2 moves. If the chosen class is warrior class, then they get these 2 moves. And then if you don't want to do any of that, because it's probably the smarter way, is to actually add in our base character class. You can say we can actually add variables, or you can start creating that list. You can go ahead and do private. Actually, we'll just go ahead and do public. We'll make it a public static, so we can just, or with a getter and setter, right? So because we don't need to set them in our class here. Let's say public. We're gonna say base ability. Actually, we're gonna make it a list, right? So we're gonna go ahead and using systems. I'm in the base character class, by the way. So we're gonna go ahead and do using system dot collections dot generic, right? So we're gonna actually use the list function here. This is how I would set up abilities for all your classes. So we can say use public list of type base ability, and we're going to say players abilities. That's what we're calling it again, and we're going to set that equal to a new list of base abilities. I think, yeah, like that. Okay. So what this is going to do is that it's going to create a new. I think it should. It does. Okay. So what we're creating is a blank list that's public. You know, I think we need to set that to a getter and setter. No, we don't. We're going to go ahead and set it. Yeah, okay. So So we have this list here that we're going to be able to access in our, since each of our classes inherit it, we can go ahead and say, hey, our player ability, we can say player ability.add, I believe it is. So it would be in our base warrior class here, we can go ahead and do player abilities.add, and it's going to take a base ability item. So what we'll do is go ahead and say base ability, no, it'd be a new, let's say attack ability. Right, so this is so what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, add this ability to our player, right? So we're gonna go ahead and do this again. I'm gonna go ahead and Control C to copy, Control V to paste. We're gonna add another ability, and this would be our sword slash. So what we've done is in our base character class, and I know this is getting off topic with the turn-based combat system, but you need abilities, right? You need to use something in your turn-based combat system. So what we're doing is we've created this list here that's in every single base character class, and then when we actually go to our base warrior class, we can say, hey, you know, when we've created abilities, like I've created 2 here, you could say, well, I want these 2 abilities to start with warriors. I want, let's say you have a mage class or a wizard class or something, and you have a fireball spell. You can say, well, I want the fireball spell to be a starting spell with this class, and you can actually add it to this inventory. And then when we actually end our creation, right, when we click create, we can make sure that it's all saved and then stored when we load into our game information script, and then that's where we can use it for our game. So hopefully you kind of understand what I just did here. If not, please leave comments and stuff, and I'll try to go over it again more thoroughly. But basically, this is the way I would set up having starting class abilities or moves, however you want to call them, and how to organize it so that we can access it later on after we've created our character in our game information script, which, remember, a game information script is like the script that we use to access all sorts of things. At least that's what I do. So we've done the base character class, we've added some moves. Make sure to Control S to save and all these different scripts. I'm going to go ahead and close them up because we're not going to be using them. But we are going to have is these 2 static moves here, and I'm going to actually jump into our GUI, which I think I need to open up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And this is our turn-based battle GUI. It's in our turn-based combat folder, and you see we've made these couple comments here that said, hey, we need some buttons for our moves. So what we're going to do is go ahead and say we'll go ahead and do GUI.button. And we'll create an if statement for it in a minute, but what we want to do is go new rect, and this creates the rectangle for the button. And then it needs content. And what we're going to do is say game information dot player move 1 dot ability name. Okay, so our ability name, remember, is a string, which you can see here. Our ability name is a string. So what we're doing in our battle GUI is saying, hey, label the button by this name. So we're saying that name will show up as if our move 1 is attack slash, or what is it? What did I say? I already forgot. Attack ability. It's going to show up as attack ability because I believe that's the name. And then sword slash will be sword slash. That's hard to say. All right. So now we're going to add another button. So I'm going to go ahead and Control copy all that. Hit enter. And then paste, Control V, and we're going to change player move 1 to player move 2. Right? So now we need to go ahead and adjust where this is going to be on screen. I'm going to go ahead and press, let's say we want it, you can go ahead and highlight, and it's from left top with height. So we're going to say we want it on the right hand side for now. We can definitely make this prettier later, but we're going to say, actually let's just keep it, we'll go screen. I'm going to use screen.width, and I'm going to say divide by 2. We'll just subtract 100 from the edge. That's what we'll say. So we're going to, for our left hand side, so it's going to be screen.width minus 100. So this is going to get the width of your screen and subtract 100 pixels from it. And then place it. Again, this will probably be 150. We'll make it 200. And we're going to make the top going to be Since these are going to be left and right of each other, we're going to go ahead and put these at the same height. So we'll go screen height, screen.height. And this is, again, it's going to get the length of the screen. So it would be this, right? So if you can see my mouse, it'd be all the way down here. So for me, it would be 1080. So it'd be 1080 minus amount. We're going to go ahead and say 50. So screen dot height minus 50. We're going to go ahead and, again, remember it's width and height. So we're going to say we want the button to be 75 wide. And then I'm going to say 30 width. And this is just kind of guessing. I'm going to go ahead and control S to save, and hopefully when I go ahead, I'm going to have to drag their battle GUI onto our main camera and our state machine. Oh, state machine. I'm not in the correct scene, I don't think. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, and you see we have... I'm going to go ahead and press pause. We have our normal attacks, our buttons down here. What is this next state button? Oh, I have an error here. So hold on. Throwing all kinds of errors. I haven't tested this out yet. I would like to know what the new state button is. Let's find out where that's coming from. Actually, I might just mess around with that later. I don't want to get stuck doing this. But as you can see, that I'm gonna have to make these actually a bit longer. So we're gonna go ahead and make these 100 width, and you can actually see the names down the lower left-hand corner. So you see normal attack and sword slash. And we're just getting tons of errors. Don't worry about this right now. We'll figure out. The array is just the way that array is set up is wrong. I guess we can fix it now. I think it's just array without length. Let's see. Yep, it's not +1. It's just dot length. That's what I thought. Okay. So this error is throwing up and saying it's our random range is out of. When you do class types.length, dot length returns the length of the array and then adds 1 to it. But since we're starting at 0, we don't need to do that. So get rid of that dot, the +1. I'll go ahead and press play. This should get rid of our thing. So yeah, we've created. Oh, that's cool. I didn't even realize that I added a button. It's been a while since we did that, but you can see we've added. I guess a while ago we added a button that changes our states. That's cool. Okay, so. We've added our buttons, and I'll go back into Unity and I'll show you guys those buttons. We have the buttons down here, / and normal attack. So what I would do if you're moving ahead or moving on kind of thing, and you have a ton of abilities, what I would do is kind of either have an action bar down here and do that using a for loop. Say, hey, for all 4. We could say, we don't have it, or we have it up here, but you could say, using this list, you can say for the list.count, I believe it is. So if for, I'll go ahead and show you, I'll type out the code just so you can see it, because I probably won't be making that many moves for the tutorial for now. But basically, if you did for int I, this is the way I would display all the buttons. Okay, if 4 is equal to int I, and then I would do that. Int I semicolon. I would do I is less than the game information dot public or player abilities dot count. Right. So if our I, it's going to iterate as many times as player abilities is long, and then we go I plus plus. And then you would do an if statement, and you would say if GUI dot button. So that means if this button is pressed, we'll go ahead and do the new rectangle, blah blah blah, all this information, right? So, well, you'd go new rec 0 0 0, and then I would say the content would be player abilities. Or excuse me, game information dot player abilities dot name ability name. Why isn't it seeing it? Oh, I dot name. Right. So what this is doing And I'll go ahead and kind of explain. Let's see. Right, so we've created this for loop. This is how, again, this for loop. I'm gonna go ahead and make a little note here. We're gonna say use this for loop to display several abilities. So if you we can say this creates an action type bar. So what I mean by that is basically this for loop, the way it's set up right now, will create as many buttons as there are abilities, and each button will be the ability's name, right? Or that's what it will say on it. So if you had 100 abilities, if you're level 1,000, let's say you're level 1,000, your spell book that you quote unquote have has 1,000 abilities in it, and you ran this loop, it will create 1,000 buttons for all those abilities to test them, whatever. So this probably isn't the best way to display all your abilities, and especially in button format, you might want to have a list if you have that many abilities for a turn-based combat, for a turn-based game. But that's an idea. The other way, if you're again, we're creating this GUI so we can test, or not test, so we can create a battle system. But I just want to show you that kind of this is the code that you would use for to display several buttons instead of going down here and just labeling the both of them. But since we only have 2 moves right now, so we can show you so we can get the base calculations and stuff up and running, I wanted to do that. So in order for these buttons to work, we need to go ahead and add them in an if statement. So close them in the if statement. So we'll go if, and then do the brackets, right? So this creates an if statement for us. If the button is clicked, we'll go if. I'm going to go ahead and add it down here. And then we're going to go ahead and say, this is where we can calculate the player damage, the player's damage to the enemy, right? I'm going to go ahead and copy that so we have this comment down. So what we can do is only display this information if we are in our player choice state, okay? And that's what we're going to add now. And then once we're in our player choice state, we know that if the player selects one of these buttons, we can immediately switch states to calculate damage. And then we can apply the damage to the enemy and remove the ability of take away the ability that allows a player to select hundreds of moves at once, right? So they're going to be able to select one move at one time, and immediately after that happens, we're going to say, hey, player choice has been taken, it's been chosen, so let's calculate the damage and apply it to the enemy. And that's how we're going to use our state machine. So we're actually going to go ahead and make a private void function down here, and we're going to call it display player's choice. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to copy and paste all that code that we just wrote up here. We're going to cut it. Actually, I want to make sure I grab all these comments. I deleted that for loop. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it, and we're going to go ahead and paste it. And then we're going to call this function if. We're going to say if our turn-based combat state machine dot current state is going to be equal to our player state, right? So our battle state dot we want it to be player choice, right? So what this is saying, hey, if our current state of our state machine is we're in player choice, then we want to go ahead and call this function. Bam, like that, right? So now we're going to call this private function that we created, and then we can go ahead and down here, when we click on one of these buttons, we're going to immediately switch our state, and so we're going to do that now. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this up here, this if statement, this turn-based combat state machine, so I don't have to retype it all. But after we hit the button in our if statement, we're going to say turn-based combat state machine dot current state is going to be equal to turn-based combat state machine battle states dot, we're going to say enemy choice this time. And I'm going to go ahead and copy all that, Control C to copy, come down in our other button, and Control V to paste. Now, if you're doing the for loop method because you have 1,000 abilities, you only have to write this once, and you can write it at the end of the out of the for loop. So you'll do the for loop, the whole for loop, and then when they click on a button in the if statement, in the if statement, when you do if ability game information dot player abilities of I dot ability name, if that button is chosen or clicked, then switch states. And that's what we're doing here. But we only have 2 moves, so we don't need a for loop because I'm not going to have 1,000 moves probably for the tutorial. But you might for your full game. So the way this is going to work is we're actually going to be able to see. I'm going to go ahead. We have that button to change states. So we're going to actually click that button, and we should see it display these buttons and then take away these buttons, right? So assuming we don't have any errors, and we don't, I'm going to go ahead and press play in Unity, and you see we're in the start state, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hit next state, and now we're in player choice, and our buttons have shown up. And now we're not going to go ahead and click normal attack, and we should switch to enemy choice, right? So we jumped the gun. We didn't calculate the damage, which there was an oversight on my fault. We actually need to go, instead of enemy, we need to go to calculate damage state. So our combat system is actually working pretty well. I'm actually going to move this to 150, these buttons. So I'm on the second button. I'm going to move it to 150, and I'm going to move this to because it's 250, excuse me. So I'm going to move it over farther to the left. So again, we started the game. I'm going to hit this next state button that we've had. This is awesome, and it's going to switch our state to player choice, right? So now it's our player choice, and we're going to say, well, let's do a sword slash, right? So we're going to hit sword slash, and now we're calculating the damage. We haven't created any functions or any stat calculations for that calculate damage function, but we're doing it now. We're actually changing states. Hopefully you can kind of see this combat system coming together. It's not the most beautiful thing, and that's because there's no animations or anything like that, but the core of the system is coming together, which is what we want to do. So I guess the other thing that we're going to try, we can actually get up running, is the choose who goes first. And so let's see. We're going to go ahead and call these 2 functions down here. This choose who goes first and then determine player vitals up in a prepare battle script, because that's going to actually allow us to figure out who's going to go first and what state we end up into. And that's going to, again, add a little bit more to our state system, our turn-based combat system. So first thing we need to do is go ahead and determine our vitals. And then we're going to say choose who goes first. So right now we're creating our enemy. We're saying, hey, find our vitals, our player's vitals, which is just stat calculations, right? And then we're going to say figure out who goes first. And I realize that comment's right here, but you know, we'll just change it. So our prepare battle script is going, it's fine. So now when I go ahead and press play, assuming we don't have any errors, which we don't, we're actually going to end up either in the player state or the enemy state. Enemy choice or player choice. So if I go ahead and press play, we've started, we're in player choice. And what that means is my luck roll ended up being higher than our enemy roll, which it's going to be equal every time. So, because we didn't change much to it. So that's cool. But anyways, we're in our player choice now. So now we can say, all right, hey, what tack do we want to do? We want to do normal tack, slash tack. What are we doing here? So what we're going to say is we're going to do a sword slash. Now we're going to calculate damage. Nothing happens because we're stuck in that state. I can go ahead and move out of it. Actually, I can't because we don't have the button set up to run that. But basically, now what we can do is start setting up, or we've set up the groundwork to go into our stat calculations for damage. And we are going to do the stat calculation damage and stuff in the next video. We'll start working on formulas and algorithms for that. I'm going to keep them pretty simple, nothing too complex. I'm going to refer back to that spreadsheet I created several videos ago with the idea of total damage, and we'll start building off that total damage script or formula and then build it there. But basically, we've covered a few things in this video. We've covered the abilities and had kind of a quick how-to for a ability inventory, if you will, using a list. Showed you guys how to implement that in the game information script and how to add moves to your base character classes. So if you've been wondering how to do that, we showed you how to do that. You can use your abilities can be stored in either scripts, separate classes, or you can store them in a database, much like the item database. It's going to be extremely similar. if you don't do that, or if you're following along strictly with what we're doing, we have 2 moves that we've just said, hey, game information is going to store these because this is all the player's going to have right now because we only have 2 moves. Then you'll see that we've worked on our battles. We've worked on the turn-based system, so we have some more to do. You can kind of seeing it take shape, and we got our luck choosing who goes first working, and we have our the buttons working in our GUI. So. A few things, again, I ask you, please leave in the comment below or tweet at me or leave on Facebook or something. Let me know if you think we should switch to Unity 4.6 beta. If no one answers really or no one says anything, I'll probably just I will switch over because it's a lot more fun to work with. If you guys all hate the idea of switching to 4.6, let me know, and we don't need to do that now, but we probably will later anyways when it comes out full release. But anyways, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. I try to update you guys on Facebook and Twitter, let you know what's going on with me. New videos should be coming out regularly, so look forward to that. And I hope you guys like the video. Hope you learned something, and I'll talk to you guys next time.